What's up, landlords? Rene here. I'm going to have a chat with Matt. This is our first time speaking. We don't know each other. And so, Matt, to kick this thing off, I'm going to say a few things that I think I know about you just to have some fun with it if you're cool with it.
Let's do it. Let's do it, man.
All right. So, I think you're in the Coast Guard and you're a helicopter pilot.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And you're also married to another Coast Guard lady. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
both of us are dual mill.
Okay. And you guys are Tesla enthusiasts.
Yes, we do share some Tesla content from
Okay.
time to time.
And the last thing I have is I'm kind of tracking that you guys either have like a channel or something where you promote products. I don't know if it's any products or just Tesla specific stuff because I've seen some of your videos of you guys like washing the Tesla and putting little accessories. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so like a company reached out to us, and it was like our first time doing sort of like affiliate marketing for that product. And so they sent us that product, and all they wanted in return was a 3 to 5 minute video. And so we were like, well, great, let's check out the product. And to this day we still use it. It's just like some small accessories, a cup holder, I think like a secret compartment, and one other thing. Um, oh, like a little glove compartment box, with just inside the interior there. And so, yeah, we were like, cool. I mean, there's pretty much no strings attached. We get the products. We just have to create the review. And, for us, we still use that product. So we felt like, we were comfortable posting that versus, if we use the product and it was like not really good quality, we would not feel pretty much like authentic to be sharing that or posting that product as well. And so yeah, no, it was a cool experience. That was the one and only time we've done that. So
Okay.
the other videos are us like purchasing and not sponsoring like videos, like just products that we purchase on our side.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just wondering about that stuff. That's awesome. So to kick this thing off, I have like, regimental type of questions that I like to go through with you. And the first thing is your age. How old are you?
So I turned 31 2 weeks ago. Yeah, end of October. Yeah, end of
Okay.
October. So
All right.
yeah,
And
making
most
that making that transition out of
you
my
still look
20s.
you still look like a young 20-year-old. That's awesome
Yeah,
that you're a
yeah. I
pilot and
gotta I
everything.
gotta I gotta thank my mom's genes on that side.
So, have you guys broken the Millionaire Club net worth? Like, I know a lot of real estate investors track that.
Yeah, and that was something that was a huge milestone. I think we were really working hard towards. And there was actually the moment where I looked at Jess and I was like, do we do anything differently? And she's like, no, we just stay the path. And so that was like a really cool aha, like light bulb moment that, in the beginning, you might have these materialistic or number oriented goals that you're searching for. But once you hit it, you're already like, as you're approaching that goal, you find yourself already moving that benchmark. And so, while it was like, a real testament to like hard work and creating a plan and sticking to that plan, I think it was a little less, or it was a little like anticlimactic when it happened. And yeah, she kind of put the nail on the head there. Just stay the course, continue the plan, and I think we've had our path. It's ever changing, especially being in the military, like where we're staying at. So, our house hack might not work in the next unit, but it does now, given our current living situation.
So, were you in your 20s when you broke the infamous 1 million net worth, or was it right at 30 and you're like now
I
at
was, I
31?
was, yeah, I was 30, and my wife, she's a little bit older than me, so we were both 30 and 31.
Wow,
So
that's awesome. It's really
yeah.
impressive. That it's just a milestone that a lot of us like, oh, millionaire thing. But it's funny. I do like the way you put that because once you hit it, you're like, oh, everything feels the same. It's not anything special.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You didn't need to make these, drastic life-changing decisions, right? It's just those small decisions that, they take time. They'll take 5 to 10 years sticking to that plan. So a lot, a
Yeah,
lot different than what you'd see maybe on social media nowadays, right? With a little
yeah,
bit of that instant gratification,
yeah.
culture, which is it gets people. I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's unrealistic. So how long have you guys had your rentals?
So we acquired the first property in 2020. So that was the fall of 2020. So pretty much right after COVID. And then, so we did 2020, 2021, and 2022. So we got three properties in 3 years. And that was kind of our big like ramp up in our real estate portfolio phase. And so it was the first 2 years, it was two single family properties. Or sorry, one single family property, triplex, then single family property. So we kind of sandwiched a multifamily in between those single families.
Okay. That's those are all still like I would is that considered small multifamily or
Yeah, because it's under four
okay.
units. Like I
Okay, all
think
right.
the 1 to 4 units, and that to answer your question, right? Like that's the tool that we used was a VA loan, and that's how they qualify or sorry quantify small multifamilies that 1 to 4 units using a VA
Okay.
loan. So it kind of makes sense.
That's cool. So why did you guys get into real estate investing? Because you guys are kind of like partnered on this venture, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think it definitely started when I was going through training in Pensacola, Florida, and my wife was at the time she was in Houston. So we were both living, I guess I was geo-bacheloring, right, in the military. We were living apart, and at that time, it just financially didn't make sense for us to, um, we wanted to have like a little bit of like cutting into that housing expense because we realized like after you start learning and looking at the numbers and doing a income statement, doing a budget, you know, what is the number one expense that you're having primarily is your housing expense, right? So I started learning about real estate and come to find out, I was looking for ways, how can I eliminate or greatly reduce that number one living expense? And so for us, it made sense to get roommates. And the opportunity came up where I was able to purchase like a single family home. It was a 4 bedroom, 2 bath, and then I also had two roommates that were doing the same flight training that I was doing. So it was sort of a situation that worked for our lifestyle at the time. We didn't have kids, we weren't living together. So, while we were already making that sacrifice, it sort of aligned with that lifestyle that we were living.
And you use the VA loan?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. That's great. And you guys were getting both of you were getting BAH, right? If you all do the same thing in the Coast Guard, base allowance for housing.
Yeah, yeah. So I know you got a military background as well. So I'm sure, I don't know if you've kind of shared with your audience, but that's basically it. Yeah, 100%
Yeah.
correct. Is you get your basic allowance for housing and, based on certain zip codes. So I think, when Jess was living in Houston, it was a little bit higher than what I was getting in Pensacola area.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you were able to use those benefits, those perks that you get from serving the country to your advantage because that's you earned it and you deserve that stuff. So, if I got this right, you were looking to reduce your number one living expense, which would be the mortgage. So then you got roommates and the VA. So that's kind of like started the journey. It was just like kind of like problem solving, like what's in front of you. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, and it definitely did not all come on me, right? Like I reached out to those that maybe were a little bit ahead in their journey, right? They closed on a house, and I was like, hey, what's that process like? And can you show me how to run the numbers? And I think at the time, I was doing a lot of like one rental at a time, bigger pockets, and active duty passive income. So for educational purposes yeah, I have no problems, kind of shouting those three resources out. And yeah, I think I just started to consume a lot, like learn a lot, but then at some point, you have to maybe, get over that hurdle and take a jump, if you will.
Yeah. And when you first started out, did you do your property management on your own or you hired a property manager?
Yeah, so I think the transaction of that first house hack is pretty extraordinary, right? You're, a homeowner, you're a landlord, property manager, and then an investor, if you will, right? So like you kind of like you're hitting like a lot of hats. And so it just made sense while I was living there. I was going to self-manage. And, you know, I think, I think probably we're probably getting a little ahead of our conversation but that self-managing, while it made sense to do it while I was living there, I certainly realized, what are my strengths and weaknesses, and how do I want to do this in 5, 10 years? And managing properties for myself, just didn't really align with what I'm trying to achieve or what I'm trying to work towards. So nothing against, right, that self-managing person, but it just didn't really jive with that lifestyle that I was currently living. And then with that, again, strengths and weaknesses, because it is like, you're a fine line. You got your roommates, but then you're trying to be friends, but then you're also like the landlord. So I found myself, cutting a lot of slack and being like, oh yeah, like, we'll just waive that fee, and your rents just like whenever you can get it in the next 10 days, but it wasn't bad because I knew the situation that because we were all military, but I just kind of blurred those lines a little bit. So that's kind of where my perspective came from.
Okay, cool. That's good info. Thanks. I think I got some more questions on that, but I'm glad you knocked it out already. Can you
Yeah.
tell me your education? Because I think you got to have a bachelor's at least to be an officer, right?
Yeah, so my education was I first did after high school I did community college at Northern Virginia Community College, and then went to prep school for the Coast Guard Academy, and then to the Coast Guard Academy. So I ended up graduating with bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and then
Cool.
obviously that's kind of where I met my wife up at the academy, and we graduated in 18. So.
Okay, so that's awesome. What does your wife do in the Coast Guard?
So she's the brains of the bunch because she's going to law school, actually funded through the Coast Guard. So it's like called a CG JAG, or Judge
Yeah,
Advocate General. And
yeah.
so she's currently doing that. It's a 3-year schooling process, so she's in her first year. And upon that completion of law school, she'll assume a role within the Coast Guard JAG Corps.
Wow. You guys are a powerhouse. Yeah, I can see lots of potential.
Yeah, but
Okay.
hey, just trying to keep moving forward, small steps here and there. But yeah, we certainly we're grateful to be in this position 100%.
So do you currently self-manage any of your properties right now? Like, because some are far and some are close?
Yeah, so so kind of to paint a picture, like we're in New Orleans in a triplex, and the two single families are in Pensacola, Florida, or in the suburbs of Pensacola. And it just makes sense for us to self-manage because we live in the unit. So we do medium-term rental and short-term rental, so kind of like Airbnb.
Okay.
And so because we're here, it just makes sense for us to manage. And I'm kind of using a little bit of that experience self-managing in Florida, all the things I didn't do right, and trying to apply that to here. So it's been working. We've been doing it since 22. So we're coming up on shoot, it'll be 3 years here shortly. And yeah, just I think kind of said it earlier, it just kind of fits the lifestyle to be able to manage. We have the tools and the kind of the referral network of people if we need stuff done. And a lot of the stuff we might just say, hey, well, we're gonna have to figure it out and do it ourselves.
Okay, so since it's basically close proximity, can you tell me how you went about like learning how to actually do the self-management? Like did you just kind of like, you know, self-taught, like look, research? Did you have a mentor or anything like that?
Yeah, I'd say learning a lot of mistakes. That's the first one, man. The mistakes is a hell of a teacher. But to maybe limit or kind of accelerate that learning curve, resources such as like Bigger Pockets or Brandon Turner's like the book on real estate investing, and just kind of bringing up things to consider. And as well as having like you talked about like mentors. Like I think one thing that really helped us out was having a really good property manager contact in the Pensacola area. So like a lot of the questions I was asking her, who's obviously my property manager in Florida, I was like, hey, can you send me some examples of lease agreements? She's like, of course, like no problem. And so she kind of helped me uh, get up to speed, if you will, without being like sort of gatekeeping, like, oh, that's only for real estate, like you have to have a realtor's license, like go kick rocks, so she was very open and welcoming and teaching, to where I was like willing to say, fast forward once I left Florida, she manages both those properties, and we'll give a shout out, Janet Keller at Flightline Property Management. So she's a rock star, and I think she's got over 85 properties now, so she's certainly got a full plate.
Okay, so you have three properties, and is that like 5 units?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So two single families and then a triplex.
Yeah, so you're in the single family residence and the small multi categories.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
and you actually are in short-term, mid-term, and long-term ranges of all across all those, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, that's interesting. That's good. Really diverse experience there because I know I'm kind of primarily only in the long term because I like to set stuff and forget it and I don't want to tend to it. But
Yeah,
it
that's
does make
true.
good footage for you guys because I saw some of the videos of you guys like working together, setting up, and and you guys are both good on camera. Look like a great team. So it does keep things lively and I
Shoot,
like
thank you.
that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, no, appreciate it. It's and obviously somebody that's like creating content, it's a lot of hard
Yeah.
work, and you're like, how do I do this? And you're trying to figure it out. Meanwhile, trying to balance two full-time jobs. So it takes a lot, but I think the impact hopefully is worth it if it could just help inspire one person, or
Yep.
just change your perspective. I think that light bulb shift is pretty magical.
Yeah, it is. So I think I'm closing. Yep, this is the last page. What's your biggest
Okay.
problem or thing you hate with property management?
Ooh, the biggest
If
problem or thing I hate.
if you could think
Yeah.
more so of when you actually do it. Like I'd like to know when you're doing it for when it's close by, like what do you hate the most about it?
Um, I'm not really a confrontational person, so like sometimes, and just because I don't like it, I understand that it is required of the position to do that, so while I don't necessarily look forward or enjoy it, I think that managing those things that come up, those problems, I think you can put a system in place to help maybe mitigate a lot of that stuff, but there's going to be some one-off stuff that does happen, that does occur, and I think for us, if because we like to, like, I would not want to be bound to a location, to then respond or manage, and like you could have like that referral network, if you will, like a process. Hey, you got work requests, go ahead, submit it on the portal, contact so and so, and schedule a time, right? Like that can work, and I think that's probably that's what we did, at least for when I was self-managing. But again, I was almost bound to do that location because I felt like I really wanted to put a lot of effort, and to really take care of it, especially like the first one. You're like, oh man, like I don't know what to do. Like I don't want this thing to burn down. Yeah, I think there was taking a little bit of like pride, but I did feel like, hey, like we want to take a trip, like weekend trip. Sometimes I think we're better about it now. Excuse me. But I think in the beginning it was just something to consider, like, oh, can we take a week-long trip, or what if something happens, and you start playing the what if game, and that can't really be too conducive to fostering that long-term investing or long-term relationship.
Okay, thanks. So when you have like maintenance issues currently like right now, I would like to know like how do you go about handling that? Like for example, do they text you and then you go get direct with a contractor and you coordinate it? Because I think I saw a post somewhere on your X, because I think that's where I saw it, where you had a picture of some maintenance or something that was going down. I don't know if a HVAC was getting replaced or something. How
Oh,
do you go about that?
yeah, yeah. So, um, like currently in New Orleans, right? Like that's primarily stuff that we could handle, we can address. And so we've worked with a few HVAC techs here in the local area a couple of years. So we have a few trusted contacts where, maybe like a tenant will say, hey, maybe either the condenser pump outside or something is sounding funky or it's not cooling to the proper temps, you mind having somebody come and check it out. And for us, that's pretty. It's pretty streamlined. It's just a message because it's on through um, so short-term rentals, obviously on Airbnb. Sometimes there's that direct booking where they'll just get our phone numbers. So it could just be a text. So we'll get a notification, and from there we'll just coordinate, a good time, a good place that they could meet and go check out the unit or whatever the maintenance thing that needs to be done. So a lot of it is a little bit of coordination on our end, but it's sort of just being that communicator, I would say, that middleman communicator, trying to just convey, hey, okay, cool, I got you confirmed tomorrow at 3, and then we just let the tenants know.
So how do you communicate with the tenant, like primarily like text or through those
Text,
portals? Okay.
yeah, text,
And
text
then
or portals, so like Airbnb portal, stuff like that. Yeah, exactly.
do you have any like tips or tricks or ways to limit some communication with the tenants? Just to give you some ideas. Some people will
Sure.
say, "Hey, contact my property manager," or "Hi, contact my handyman directly," or go to a home warranty. Basically, instead of training the tenant to go straight to you, do you do anything to have them go elsewhere to solve their problems?
No, but I mean that's probably a really good idea. Now that you mentioned it, like shoot, all right, now we got to implement that. But off the bat, no, and I don't know. I think maybe while that is because sometimes we do like to, we'll run into the people that are staying down there and kind of get to know them a little bit and be a little bit more friendly. So I feel like we could be maybe a little bit almost too approachable where they're comfortable saying, oh, hey,
Mhm.
like you have, can you, shoot us a text. So maybe drawing that line is something that we need to work on or like you said, creating that process where it's like if something does come up, you have direct line of communication to so and so that can address it.
Yeah. So how do you do renewals and or move outs? Like I know how it works in a long term, just to give you a little bit to go off of. Before their lease is ending, you're kind of reaching out and saying, "Hey, you want to stay longer?" basically. And if not, here's the process to moving out, and you give them kind of some checklist to do what they need to do to get out. Since you're close by and you have the short and midterms, does anything like that apply? Like when they're about to end their stay, do you reach out and then ask if they're going to stay longer? If not, hey, here's a checklist of what to do to leave. Can you kind of talk through that process?
Yeah, yeah, no, I'd love to. So I'd say it a little bit differs from Airbnb and a midterm rental. So I'll just start with Airbnb. Airbnb is super straightforward, right? It's clear cut out check-in, check-out dates. And we have what's called a property management software called Guesty for Hosts that prior to the day of checkout, a couple instructions, turn off the lights, take out the trash, start the dishwasher, leave all the linens, etc. And follow that up by an automatic text message saying, hey, our cleaners will be in shortly after your checkout. So, that kind of at least gives them a little bit of guidance. It's not like, like I've seen a couple like 20 item list of like, hey, walk the dog, paint the fence, on your checkout. It's like, come on now, what's going on? So, we try not to be those types of hosts. So for the Airbnb side, I think it's pretty straightforward, like I said. It's a couple checklist items, times, and then and we coordinate our cleaners. We just shoot a text at the beginning of the month saying, hey, we have people checking in and out at this date. When can you come? And typically they're pretty responsive in terms of coming same day after the checkout or the next day. And then for lease and renewals for like a medium term rental, we've had luck both on the Airbnb platform and on Furnish Finder, just getting in contact with them. And a lot of that is like, hey, they're like for the first year because we're still kind of up on a year of that. It's been people that have work timelines that they're like, hey, I'm going to be down there working from, let's say June to maybe August. And so these are the dates that I'm looking at. And then, so like when they check out, we sort of adopt a similar checkout process with Airbnb, but Sometimes it's like we'll just basically do the same thing because either they're leaving, their work is done, and so a lot of them don't really try to do like oh hey, can I stay another month? It might I think it's happened a few times, but it's probably not the might not be the norm, and certainly other cases might be different. But we try to stick to that templated. Here are the checkout steps. Cleaning crew will be coming in shortly after, and that's really I don't know. I think that's I'm sure there's a lot of ways to improve that process that we do, but it works for us, and it's not too intrusive, but it does take maybe a little bit of coordination if people do want to extend a stay, and we can have to look at a calendar to work that out.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It seems like they'd be less likely to stay because it's more like a hotel kind of booking style. You know when you're getting there, you
Yeah.
know when you're leaving, and there's less,
Yeah.
chance of them gonna want to stay longer. Okay,
Yeah, it's
it's
like,
because
oh,
they
we
got
gotta, catch a
contracts.
flight, or yeah, I'm working here and I'm
Yeah.
doing an internship. Like we had internships over the summer, like big oil and gas industries out here, lots of medical. So we had a couple of physicians stay, and hey, my rotation is from this date to this date, and every once in a while we might get like, hey, I really enjoyed it. Mind, can I come back next year, or can I come back in a couple months? And we're more than happy to accommodate if we have the calendar availability.
Okay, how do you handle keys with the moving in and moving out process?
Yeah, no, great question. I think with that we do Schlage keyless locks, and what's great about that is um, it's actually different for the Airbnb than it is the medium term rental. So the Airbnb, we used August locks, and that codes they link in with our property management software, so they automatically generate random codes, and we have a text template that will send out the morning of that. Hey, here's your code. This is the check-in process. But then for medium term rental, we just have to clear out those codes on the Slage digital code, and then just re-enter a code and then give that to them on a text. So granted, it's like I would say that's not scalable because it takes about like 3 to 5 minutes. But since we're here, we're living here. Like after the
Hmm.
cleaners leave, we'll just knock it out before they do check-ins. But um, I do not know if the that's like that edition of that Slade John code has like an app or something, but sometimes that might be easier if you connect to the Wi-Fi and you can do that because we were able to do that with the August lockdown in the Airbnb, which is pretty nice. You could time, or you could see who opened it, see when it was closed, and then we give a separate code to our cleaners, which is super helpful.
I can understand how on the short term rental you would provide like, water, utilities and Wi-Fi. But on the midterm, are you also doing that? Or you or because if you are also including all the utilities and Wi-Fi, you could potentially figure out an e-lock situation where you could reprogram it without having to go there in person.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, so like you said, the Airbnb, we do that electronic lock through Wi-Fi, and that's a couple hiccups. I think with the Wi-Fi, power goes down, which had to like
Hmm.
reset it. Not terrible, but for the medium term rental, that could be something that we do implement or do improve upon. But I think to make things as with less resistance as possible. We cover everything, so it's like, hey, just check in, check out. You don't have to bring any furniture. Everything's covered, and that's kind of how we do it for the medium term
Okay.
rentals. So we cover. So yeah, that's like that could be a good idea if we wanted to do electronic lock through the Wi-Fi. Like obviously we could do that. So
Okay. How do you set the rents with your short and midterm? Do they give you a suggested price?
yeah, so we've gone through two dynamic pricing tools. One is called Wheelhouse Pricing. The other one is called Price Labs. I think Price Labs is a little bit more mainstream, a little more famous. However, we really like the interface of Wheelhouse, so we've used two. I think we've opted to go with Wheelhouse, but it's really a data aggregator that collects market rents for the Airbnb, depending on events, seasonality, what is your, revenue per bedroom for that local area in a given zip code, kind of hyper focus it. So that kind of spits out like X and Y number. And then you can go in and customize, if you feel like, if you're doing just a run-of-the-mill Airbnb versus a higher end luxury. And so I feel like we try to cater somewhere in the middle of like people not trying to party, more traveling families, traveling professionals, or group travelers that are just looking for a residential neighborhood in the city, but able to like take public transportation, which we have nearby. And so trying to find that intersection is been a kind of a moving target just based on the seasonality and the way that the city is doing rules and regulations. So certainly a lot of factors to consider, but thankfully with that pricing tool, we're able to streamline a lot of that. So we're not having to just arbitrarily come up with a number, and then we take that number for the medium term rental and just compare it because there's, on Airbnb, you could see people that are soliciting for only 30 days or longer stays. And so in our neighborhood, we'll try to see what the market is looking at, what has worked for us. And, it's certainly going to be I would say between maybe like 15-20% higher than a long-term rental. So I prefer we did long-term rental and now we did medium-term rental. So we kind of have that benchmark of, what not to go under and then kind of apply that accordingly with depending on what's working.
Okay, do you know how your property manager does it in Florida for your pricing the rents?
Ooh, that is a good question. What I've seen her provide us for when we are getting ready to lease it up is she'll print out like comps from the MLS and say, hey, these are signed rent contracts of what 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,800 square foot is renting for in that same zip code or in that neighborhood. And so, it sort of gives us, like I said, a kind of a ballpark. And then I think we are of the mindset of instead of like there's like a bell curve. I feel like we're not trying to get the tippity top of the market rent. So if market rent's 2,000, I think you can get a higher probability of a better tenant quality if you are maybe between like 18 and 19. Granted, do your numbers work, or how do you analyze the deal? So I think we don't really try to get that like, hey, like that 100%, but we're trying to get that 90th percentile. And I think that gives us a little bit of like a larger tenant pool to hopefully screen from and eliminate a little bit some of that tenant turnover.
Okay. Have you ever double checked her work? Just out of curiosity, like go on Zillow or Rentometer and kind of like just see if her comps align with what you can find.
Yeah, and in the beginning, I certainly was like really kind of because I was transitioning from a self-managing to like property management. So that was in 2023, so just like a year ago. And so I think we've had one new lease up, and so I was like, well, no, that makes sense. Like those rents kind of match with what I was seeing. And from
Okay.
time to time, I'll try to just there's like a kind of a Facebook group of rents that I use for like rent by the room for housing. So from time to time, I'll just go and check in and see like, hey, what's the pulse? Like, are there a lot of rentals on the market now? Has rents increased? Has it decreased? And just kind of see. So it's obviously not as hands-on or intensive, but I certainly want to at least uh, feel informed, I think is probably the best way to put it.
Can you tell me the process for your long-term rentals working with your property manager? How does she handle the turnovers, rehab, and showings? Like, can you
Okay.
just kind of walk me through like what would take place if a tenant's leaving and how does she go through that turnover, maybe rehabbing some stuff and then handling the showings?
Yeah, yeah. So, thankfully, I could probably give you a really easy answer, and she just takes care of it all. She says, "Hey, this is the checkout timeline. We need to get cleaners." She'll do an inspection report. I'll see the photos on. We use Appfolio, so I'll go in. I'll see the photos. She'll mark items that need to be addressed, and for the most part, I'm just like take care of it all because she has an in-house handyman, aka her husband. So they're able to keep a lot of those costs pretty low. But for certain things, like we did a full carpet cleaning, hindsight 2020, I would have just used luxury vinyl plank. It's much easier to maintain, a little bit more durable. But I made my bed, so we got carpet, and so doing a carpet cleaning is probably like 150 for the whole house. So typically, she'll mark up from the inspection report. That's probably 2 days, give or take, from the inspection report to me seeing the report to me taking action on it. She'll coordinate all that. Once she gets after that's coordinated, she'll do the photos, she'll do the listing, the leasing, she'll share it on social media, and I think we've had only a really a 10-day turnaround in terms of like from checkout to cleaning, so yeah, cleaning, repairs, photos, leasing, inspection reports, all that jazz. And I mean, I'm that's kind of what you're paying for because I'm certainly not going to do it when I drive over from New Orleans to
Hmm.
Florida. So I look at it as that's why you pay people to do that.
Just something coming to mind is, wouldn't it be nice to be able to self-manage 11 months out of the lease and then just hire them for the last month in turnover? Um, for me, I always wonder, like, why do these property managers always want to tie in landlords for these long-term contracts, knowing the most work is the turnover?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that would align with our interests more. But there's still always going to be a conflict of interest a little bit with the landlord wanting set it, forget it, less problems and everything, but the property manager wanting to get in there and get their hands dirty and kind of that's where they make their money and everything. So I don't know. I just feel like maybe the industry could change a little bit, and it might happen naturally, or everybody just. For me, my preference would be like, hey, just do it yourself. But
yeah,
that's just my
yeah,
bias. We all got our own bias. So how
yeah.
do you know how she screens and does the background checks? If she's got AppFolio, she does it all within AppFolio, doesn't she?
Yeah, and shoot, that's for the most part. That's I think Zapfolio is pretty robust. Like you have to have over
Yeah.
like 50 units, and it's like an all-in-one suite. I personally haven't used it, so I really can't speak to the tools and interface of Appfolio. I just have I guess an owner's portal, if you will, where I can able to see some of the transactions, the leases, etc. So yeah, that's I can't really speak too much on how that process goes.
What about your short term, midterm? How do you do it?
So for that is, we just make sure that they're all verified through, like if we're using Airbnb, that's kind of their booking platform. In for when we did long-term rentals, we used TransUnion background check, and I think it was like it was like 39 or $47. And what we did is we're like, hey, submit an application, you got to go through a background check. It's going to cost $39 or 37 or whatever. If you're approved, we just dock it off the first month's rent. So we kind of give them a credit. And that's kind of what we did. And that's worked for, we've had three long-term turnovers. And then after that third long term, then we just converted to medium term, furnished some of the property. And for that, we've thankfully been at least fortunate of like going through that background process has been mostly through those platforms and those booking
Okay.
platforms.
It's a different platform for the midterm and short term, but they have their own kind of background check verification process.
Yeah, I don't know if it is TransUnion. I know that's a really popular one. It's like TransUnion Smart Move, I believe,
Okay.
is one of the companies that
Okay.
either handles it in-house or something like that. So
Do you do condition reports like move in, move out reports? I definitely for the long term rentals, but what about the short and the midterm?
we do it for the midterm, not the short term.
Okay.
So for the condition reports, it's pretty straightforward. It's sort of like, hey, give them a template that we print out, and within 24 to 40 hours, if you're not sure convenience, right, can you go ahead and just go through inspect? Was there anything that was not working or faulty or wrong? Describe it, identify it, and then we'll obviously use that upon the checkout to say, oh no, that was a pre-existing thing. Don't worry about it. Or if they kind of, or it just begins a discussion, right? Like, hey, I noticed this thing wasn't broken before. It is now. Can you like tell me how that happened or something? And just like a discussion. But oftentimes, I think with some of those platforms, we do have that security deposit, which again, that's kind of what you want to have on your side, a little bit of a tool to like leverage that. You know, is it justified to pull it out but beyond normal, maybe wear and tear, for example? And so it just depends on whatever's written in the lease for that case.
So, what does your property manager have like something that she gives you? I don't know what that was. Does
Yeah, dude, thumbs up.
she
Let's go.
does she give you a form, like an online form, so you can verify it when they move in and move out?
So in Appfolio, I think it's not like a specific form template, but it's just she does like a move out inspection report that includes all the photos, and then in those photos are maybe like comments or remarks that are saying like, hey, this was noted to be faulty. This carpet needs to be cleaned. Some of which, if it is, you know, because I really just rely on like, hey, is that something that you think that the tenant was responsible for or not? And more often than not, if it's just like normal wear and tear, that's again on us to do it. So that's why, hey, like, if you get that lease renewal, that's great. Because
Yeah.
all your money and costs are going in those turnovers and vacancies.
Yeah, that's a pain. And then the last couple questions would be, I'm assuming you collect all your rents with softwares. She'll do the Appfolio, and then you use your short-term, mid-term platforms to collect the rents.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No paper, no checks. Try to keep everything electronic, automated. We've done Zelle a couple times for those that have been maybe direct bookings versus using um, the platforms. Yeah, I couldn't think of the word. So yeah, between like Zelle and Stripe, those are pretty much the two main payment processors that we accept and for like some of those direct bookings
Okay.
or off platform bookings.
And do you have a business banking set up? How do you work your business banking across all your rentals? Is it one business banking? Do you have multiple LLCs with different business banking? Can you kind of touch on that?
Yeah, no, good. Yeah, that's yeah, no, we're not the LLC mastermind strategy board that you could see here. In fact, do not I guess I can't really give out financial or legal advice, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. But don't let that stop you from getting into real estate investing before you get LLC. But basically, we just have a business banking account with American Express, and that pretty much card in our account uses all of our transactions for the business. And then we have Stessa, which is sort of a portfolio overview that we would generate the report to give to our CPA that has all the real estate transactions. And so we keep cash reserves in that business checking account or whatever that we'll just pull and draw from for the mortgages. And it's worked for us. I'd like to really, if I thought about it a little bit more while I was doing it, I would just really like to streamline it in terms of having one account. So we have two accounts, one for Florida properties, one for New Orleans properties. It works for us, but I kind of like, I'm trying to simplify and make stuff a little bit more streamlined and minimalist. So just something I got to improve and work on.
What about bookkeeping? How do you handle your bookkeeping? Do you do it within Stessa?
Instassa. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's a cool tool because like I said, that business credit card that we have is linked to Stessa and Stessa is linked to our real estate bank accounts through we have military USA, Navy Fed. And um, that's how we're able to maybe categorize a little bit of that bookkeeping. And then for us at the end of the year, once we submit that to a CPA, Stessa is really nice, especially their free version. I know people can go like Stessa Pro and it does a little bit more bells and whistles, but for just the free version, we've found it to be all we need to generate a PDF report of each year of each property, and that's something that we can hand over to our CPA when it's time.
Okay. So my last question with this survey here is what's your guys'
Yeah.
exit plan? Um, like if you could think far in advance, you guys retired from the military, did all your stuff, got to some magic number of units or income or whatever, and now you're ready to like officially retire and not actually have a W-2 anymore.
Mhm.
How do you handle your rentals at that point? What's the plan?
Yeah, no, I think for us, handling those rentals would be, um, it would, I guess, depend on, if they're performing great, continue. If they're underperforming, maybe, hopefully in 10 to 20 years, there's like a little bit of equity. So I think for us, we would probably just sell off all the rentals and convert it into, you know, a larger property like like a hotel or a boutique hotel or something, or, roll that into another investment vehicle, whatever that may be. Obviously I'm not trying to predict the future, so I don't know what that would look like. But for us, I think we're able to make those sacrifices and do that managing, in our 20s and 30s. But once we've maybe hit that number, hit that, like, we don't really want anything to do with being in that game. We could have it part of our portfolio, but I think it's just nothing that it's a young person's game, I would say.
Okay, great. Thanks. I submitted that and I tracked all your questions because everybody I do interviews with, I'm going to ask them that
Yeah.
same regimental thing. So I'm hoping I can get some good data and try to
Yeah.
better understand like the small landlord, the way they think and, all that stuff. So I appreciate it. But now here's like the fun part for me that I like to close this out is I like to give some friendly feedback, some stuff. I tell some things like what I see about you, what I think you should do more. And I'm nobody special. I'm just trying to help give you some value because I appreciate you spending the time with me, and
Yeah, of
also
course.
suggest some things that I think you could do better, or maybe some things that look into.
Yeah,
So
love it, man.
thanks. And then at the end, we'll definitely say, tell me your socials and all that stuff so people can follow you. And I'll put that stuff below, and I'll give you the footage so you can also share this conversation we've had. So some stuff that I like that I really would love to encourage you guys to do more is you guys are currently on active duty right now. And it's a really special time because I'm out of it and I don't wear my uniform. I did like a 22 pull-up challenge, so I put my uniform back on and I can still fit into it.
Hey,
But
that's better than most people.
oh yeah, yeah. But looking back, I didn't take many photos or videos of me when I was on active duty. I did lots of deployments and stuff. I have a little bit of footage, but a lot of times when I was deployed, they're like, no cameras, no pictures, and but I think you're in a special time where you guys should share more of your active duty relationship experience, your work, and document that. It's really awesome, and try to incorporate that as much as you can now because I think looking back when you're out, it's going to be really awesome, good. And if you guys have kids and stuff, it's going to be cool for your kids to see that. And I don't know what the rules are. They may not let you be in uniform and stuff and record it. However, you could incorporate that more. I would definitely love to follow and support you guys and see if you could encourage you to do more of it.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And I think you really hit it on the head is, I think um there's times like especially during the holidays, on my wife's side, like, she has like these videos of when she was doing dance shows when like super young, and it was like it would be cool to share with our kids how we were when we were kids, you know what I mean? And so I think that's kind of helped create a little bit of spark of like, hey, we want to have a little running vlog, if you will. So that's kind of really how it started, and it kind of helped us work together when we were in different states. So that's kind of really was the Mojo mindset, right? And it turned into like, oh, we can share what we learned. And I think that is like probably the most important part is being able to show our kids that hey, like, look at these videos where we were like just like literally doing a move out in Pensacola, doing a
Yeah.
U-Haul, and it
Yeah.
was pretty cool. So yeah, I think we could definitely lean into that a little bit more. So thanks for that feedback.
Yeah, and then since you guys are currently doing some self-management and that's lots of content for you, try to like pull out the camera and just film like even the most minuscule thing. You're like, oh, I'm gonna reprogram this sledge and stuff. And that brings me to the next thing. Like I would like to offer some feedback is trying to, even though you're in person, try to do stuff without actually doing it in person. So you can film yourself, hey, this is what I do. I'm currently resetting the router, or I'm currently reprogramming the sledge. Then once you figured it out and you have a video of it, now say, hey, how do I delegate this? How do I get someone else to do it? So you show the video, make it really nice and edit it, and you give it to your short-term or mid-term rentals when they have to reset the router. Here's a video how to do it. So now you've just kind of delegated it, and that's kind of what I like to call self-service management. Everything that I try to do is my own property management, self-management. I try to figure out a way, how do I make it so simple or streamline it or, outsource it, eliminate it, whatever, so or delegate it and I'm always trying to
Hmm.
take a step back. So I would just try to encourage you, even though you're in person, you can do some things, try to figure out how to not do it and just to
Yeah.
be more
Yeah. No, that's
efficient.
cool. I like it.
Um,
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Those are good
and then
ideas.
yeah, even for the HVAC stuff, since you said you had a connection already there established, you can put a sticker somewhere or videos or a FAQ on a website and say, "Hey, if you have any issues, here's our go-to guy. Go direct with him. Don't waste time going to me through the middleman and delaying the process." And you spin it as this is in their best interest to resolve it as fast as possible if they go direct and we have a relationship with them, and you coordinate that with him and say, hey, if you ever get calls from these people from these two units, as long as it's not above this price, just go ahead and just do it immediately if you can't get a hold of me, but most likely you can get a hold of me and then I'll pay you, work it out or whatever. It's just trying to figure out a streamlined system. And then
Yeah.
something else would be your bookkeeping, your business banking, and all that stuff, because you guys are going to have a very productive future and you're going to be successful. I guarantee it. And it's important to have a strong foundation now, and because it's only going to get messier and spread out. And I
Yeah. That's
remember
for sure.
I did a lot of testing because I had business banking with Bank of the Internet, B of I, because I'm trying to get like a tech friendly bank, and then I tried Oslo, and then Axos, and then I tried all these different tech friendly banks because I'm trying to do stuff online and I don't want to ever have to go in person. I want it all to be streamlined, and I eventually settled on Mercury. They're the best by far, tech friendly online, really great interface and everything. And if you have multiple LLCs, you can click and switch between each LLC within one interface. You don't have to log out and log back in.
Oh, cool.
You, and it's really cool because honestly, if I was coaching a brand new landlord, I would say, you know what, you may not even need property management software anymore, especially if you have Mercury, because they have a billing direct feature where you can send a set amount to a set person. They input their business or their banking information, their account number, their routing number, and I never see it from my side of, and but they put it in and secure, and they could set up automatic payments, ACH automatically through their side. You can set up a time for it to expire, I think, or you can initiate it every month. I forget how it works, but I'm like, wow, I'm really seeing some innovative things with Mercury, and they're more of a tech company than a bank, honestly. So I would try to figure that out, because the point is when you have to move money from different business bankings and stuff, it's a huge headache, especially if you have software that's incorporated into it already. Might as well go through that pain now earlier and set a good strong foundation before having to mess with it later.
Yeah. No, dude, that's super important. I feel like yeah, it's so easy to get things intertangled and like you said, if you don't have that strong foundation, I mean, how are you going to scale, right? Like you have to get those systems and processes in place. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, man. And then my own only last thing that I'd like to try to pitch you on the idea of self-managing is not as hard as you think it might be, or you don't want to deal with it and it's not your strength suit. One thing that I had to learn self-managing my properties from Iraq on the other side of the world is I had to never let the tenant know that I'm the landlord. I always acted like I was a property manager, and I've only had one tenant call me out on it. That's because they looked up my LLC, saw that I was the managing member, and I explained it's a family business, which I'm not lying. It's a family business, and I'm responsible for this property, and we have multiple properties across Central Florida. And they're like, okay, cool. And they just want to know. People are curious, and some people understand the system, and they
Sure.
can look up LLC. And I always tried to find out ways to let the tenant help themselves. And this is my prediction. I could be completely wrong, but in the future, the way technology is going soon, I think people are going to just go up with their smartphone, scan the front door, facial recognition, I don't know, walk into the rental property, and it's going to, do an automatic pass or fail if they can, be in their short term, midterm, long term. And if anything
Ooh,
breaks, you're going to say, hey, robot, Tesla bot, or whatever, fix this. And then if as us as landlords, if we can just hold on to the assets and think really far in the future, hold on to it forever, one day it's going to be so super simple, easy to be a landlord, and you don't have to worry about the extra work of the property management aspect. I think that's going to be
sure.
solved in the future. So I don't sell my rentals, and I feel like I'm going to hold them forever. And I embrace the forever landlord concept, and I'm going to do this forever. And I'm trying to make it as efficient as I can within my hands. But technology may change that one day where it's like, if you guys have kids, I'll just hand it all down like a fully automated rental business to my kids and say, hey, your goal is to keep this and just keep it going.
Yeah.
Tend to it if you need to. I don't know. That's the last little bit I got.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I think you're kind of like speaking to, where the direction is moving. And so yeah, it's an interesting time. And like I said, like software technologies, AI, that is going to be interwoven in real estate. And it could be in the form of like I said, like I feel like those check-in, check-out sheets that can be easily done through your iPhone, your camera, you're going walking through the property, and like so that that's already coming online. And so I think it's just going to get more and more applicable and easier for users.
Yeah, man. So can you share your social links and stuff like how people can follow you and because you got a really awesome, cool story with you both being in the Coast Guard and everything. So I just want you to share any of your links and stuff right now before I forget.
Yeah, no, for sure. Appreciate kind of highlighting it too. It's pretty much at the underscore Mojo Mindset, and we're mostly active on X and YouTube. So those would be the places to find us.
Okay, cool. And then the last thing before I end the live here is there anything I could do for you that you could think of?
No, no, man, this was a super cool opportunity. I think, really kudos to you for, like, reaching out and coordinating this. And so thank you for, providing that opportunity for us to share a story, hopefully, inspire somebody in your community or kind of likewise. So like somebody in our community can reach out to you of thinking that is that you're trying to do a self-managing. Like I know, in the future, if people ask me, I'm going to just be like, hey, Rene's got the answers, and so he'll be able to point you in the right direction if self-managing is in your future. So this was
Yeah,
really
thank
cool,
you.
man.
Thank you. Yeah, because I foresee many small mom and pop landlords are not necessarily in the caliber that you and your wife are, because I think you're breaching more into the real estate investing. You're going to have many doors and stuff like that. But I think I'm speculating. I don't know. I don't have the data yet. I think most landlords are below like five, maybe 10 units, probably below five. Honestly, they might just have one, two doors. And those are the people that I'm trying to help. Hey, let me show you all the systems that I've developed because of my unfortunate situation being in Iraq that streamline everything super simple for me. If I can manage my stuff from the other side of the world, backwards time zone, I had no cell phone over there. I had no way to get in contact, the
Yeah,
crappy
dude,
internet.
that is insane. That is so impressive.
Thank you. So I'm just like, I want to help the small mom and pop landlords because when it's a struggle for them and they don't like it, they're more prone to sell out and be like, I'm done with this. Or they had some bad situation that could have been avoided. And I want to help those type of people say, hey, let me work with you and streamline everything. And so you can make it simple and you can keep it forever to help your kids or, hand it down. Or even if you don't have kids, maybe you have involved in a church or something, pass it along somewhere else and just don't, because I just look at it as being so much effort and energy you put into running and investing and all that stuff. And then it's just one day you're just going to sell it all and then it's going to go in fiat currency money and then you're just going to spend it and waste it, I think. It's just easier to
Sure.
spend money when you have a lot of money of it, just like a lump sum. But that's
Yeah,
it for
yeah.
me for now. Thank you so much. You're awesome. And I'm going to end the live right now.
Cool.